So there really is no model for your healing. There really is no model for who you need to be on the other side and how long that should take. In releasing the idea of what it should look like, then you're able to be present with what it is. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. This is your host, Natalie Facey, and it feels so good to be here. It feels so good to be connecting with you in this way. And I think of the ways that you've been drawn to hearing this, whatever led to you being here, listening to this in this moment, all the ways that the universe orchestrated for us to be connecting in the way that we're connecting now. And I'm just holding so much gratitude, so much love for that. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And also holding gratitude for all the ways that something that I share today might connect with you. Some things might not, but holding gratitude for all that will unfold. Let's see where I am. Where I am right now, it's raining. I'm in the tropics. It's also warm while it's raining. And in our culture, or Caribbean culture, rain is thought of as being a blessing. And so while I'm experiencing the warmth of the space that I'm in, while I feel surrounded by beauty and colors, I also am taking in the showering of blessings, a showering of goodness. So that's how I'm arriving, and I invite you to check in on how you're arriving, what's present with you, what's present in your world in this moment. Yeah, so this episode, the topic that I have for now, who knows if it will change, but the topic that I'm starting with is the lie of perfection, or the lie of perfectionism. And I don't think this is something that I came up with. I think it's that framing or that language is something that I heard from one of my teachers and mentors and friends. And it's been sitting with me for the past several weeks, and more specifically, how the system that we live in, meaning the way that the world is organized, whether through our culture or through our profession, the ways that we are taught to relate to each other, how so much of that is connected to this image or this model of what is perfect and striving for what's perfect. And I think that holding on to this image really impacts us on very deep levels, and also impacts our healing journey. I can also speak to the ways in which this has impacted my journey, or the ways in which I have observed it impacting the journey of other people around me. And what I'll share is that, we're born into this world being our authentic selves. We're born being the whole, full selves of who we are. I think that our life is really meant to be the ongoing emergence of that wholeness, the ongoing unfolding of who we are. But then we're streamlined into these systems, and it doesn't take long for it to happen. We're not even a year old before this starts happening. we're streamlined into these systems that teach us that, oh, on this planet, in this society, there really are models for what things should look like, for how things should go, and you, human, for what you should be like and look like and behave like. And throughout the course of our life, as we move through different stages, childhood, the teenage years, early adulthood, all middle ages, like all of the years, elderhood, as we're moving through these stages, we keep being shown by our media, by the system that organizes our world, we keep being shown the models for who we are and what our lives should look like. And I know that that's sort of like, it might be vague, it might feel like, you might not quite grasp what it is yet. For me, it's still sort of like airy as I'm describing it. And so I'll get into specifics and, the more tangibles in a bit. But I wanted to start there, that we come in as these beautiful, magical expressions of the souls that we are. And our lives are meant to be the unfolding of more. So I think of it as though we come in whole, right? We come in whole, WHOLE. And as our lives unfold, we continue to experience even more of our wholeness. So we don't come in with a deficit. We don't come in needing to make up anything that we're lacking. We come in whole and are meant to, through the different experiences that we go through in life, are meant to discover, emerge, create more of that wholeness, like this ongoing state of creation and becoming more and more. And there is no stage in that process where we are not enough. There really isn't anything that we have to strive for in order to be enough, to be whole, to be worthy of X, Y, or Z. Right? So that's the foundation that I want us to stand on as we move further into this exploration. Okay, and just taking that in. I'm pausing with a breath to take that in. And so if I connect that to the healing journey, actually, let me go back to experiencing a loss. It could be a pregnancy loss, infant loss, the loss of the relationship that you envision for yourself, the loss of the career or the life that you envision for yourself. Whatever the experience is that's different from what you wanted, different from what you wanted dearly, that's what I consider to be a loss. And so going through a loss, there is this sense that you're now having to make up, so there's this sense that there's more that you have to do in order to get to whatever the model is that we were presented with. Sometimes the model is education status. It's like, having gone to college, having gone to a certain type of college, having an advanced degree or advanced degrees. And it depends on the family that you're raised in, the culture that you're raised in, the location that you're raised in, because our world has this sort of like overall culture, and then region by region, family by family, culture by culture has a subculture, right? And so for you, it might be different. It might be that there's an expectation to be a parent, there's an expectation to be married, there's an expectation to have a lasting marriage, there is an expectation for our bodies to look a certain way, which I find hilarious because we all have different body types. Sometimes it's based on your family's DNA, it's genetic. And yeah, there are other factors. Like people who live in the mountains, their bodies adapt to different shapes based on the terrain that they live in. People who live by the ocean, their bodies adapt to different shapes, size, length. People whose family is on a certain diet, their bodies adapt to different characteristics, different qualities. And so I find it insane, really, that we're shown this image of what the body should look like. It is actually insane. Sort of like, you know, think of all the different varieties of fruits that exist on the earth. And imagine someone saying, this fruit with this color, this size, this shape is the right fruit. Every fruit should look like this fruit. And if you don't look like that fruit, you need to get to work. I have the perfect program for you to whip yourself into shape. And so there is so much that we do to our bodies to get our bodies to look like whatever model we're being presented. And sometimes it's a certain height and weight. Other times, so it might be skinny, tall, and this is culture by culture, right? It might be having this size behind or this size hips or, you know, even size feet. It's like all of these insane things that we, and I shouldn't say we, because really it's systems of capitalism, systems of oppression that keep showing us these images and keep feeding to us what it is that the system, wants us to strive for. And there's so many ways that we're shown these imagery, and I would say the mass media is the main one. Right? There's so much of what we believe about ourselves, the world, other cultures, other people, other races, that comes from what we're shown in the media. Just so much. Like if you think of different cultures and different people, and if there's an idea that is formed in your mind about who those people are, how they operate, what you should be cautious about when you're around them, think of the movie you've seen that has that. Think of what you watched on TV that has that, because living with people, like walking with them, having real life experience with them, then you ultimately discover that so many of these stereotypes are untrue and that people are people. We're humans. And there is beauty and there is pain in the human experience. Okay, so I went on a little bit of a tangent because of the body piece, but just naming that, yeah, sometimes what we're shown is a certain image of what the body needs to be. And we essentially spend so much of our lives striving towards the different models that were presented. Because the other thing that systems of oppression, including capitalism, does is that it over time it works to strip us away from our sense of wholeness. Over time, through the messaging in the media predominantly. Through the messaging, we're taught that who we are naturally, authentically, is not enough, right? That the skin color that we have isn't enough. The body type, the hair texture, the way that you might speak or think, right? That these things aren't enough because either you don't fit the model, or if you do fall into the model in some way, there's someone who can do it better. There's someone who is mastering that state of being better. And so there's still work that you have to do to catch up to that state. And God, just talking about it, I'm exhausted. Just talking about it, I'm like, they have us tired in these streets. In this life, they have us tired just pushing to. There's tenderness that's coming up. I was about to say pushing to fit into these models, but really it's pushing to feel accepted. It's pushing to feel worthy. And this is the worthiness that we were already born with. We came in with it. There's no work that needs to be done in order for us to be worthy. We already are. Whew. Yeah, pausing with that one. And so going back to a loss leads to us having this experience of a greater separation from our sense of wholeness and a greater separation from the track that we were on to experience perfection or to experience the image of perfection that we were striving for. And there's this idea that we hold in our minds. Let me speak for myself. Let me come back to me. In my healing journey, there was this idea that I was holding that, the thing happened to me. Different forms of losses, different forms of trauma. And that those experiences, those painful experiences, were what took me off track, right? They were what took me away from my wholeness. And really, it wasn't wholeness that I was thinking of at that time, it was perfection. It's what took me away from being in this perfect state, from being in this state of joy, this state of love. And so my life, after going through those painful experiences, my attention turned to how do I heal? But how I thought of healing at that time, it's really how do I undo? How do this word feels strong, but it also feels somewhat accurate. How do I erase? How do I cleanse? How do I remove what happened so that I can go back to my life of being in the state of perfection and joy and bliss that I know that I'm meant to have. So, really, the pain and the trauma, it was in some way a distraction from my journey. And even as I say that, I was still holding this idea of, okay, maybe this is a part of the journey. And what might I learn from this if this is a part of the journey? How might these experiences make me stronger for whatever path I chose, whatever path my soul chose on this planet? So that was there as well. And that was actually a big part of how I was holding the experience, of how the experience sat in my system. And I think beneath that, it was, this thing has left me feeling wounded, and I need to get rid of it in order to be whole again. So, what's been coming up has been this curiosity around how do people hold loss in their system and in their story? Is it the inconvenient experience that they need to get rid of and move on from in order to be back on the path of the perfect life? Is it the inconvenience? Is it the thing that is blocking them from their perfection? And note that there's a distinction for me between perfection and wholeness. Perfection is this idea that, I'm trying to define this without using the word perfect. Perfection is this idea, let's see, that there's a model, right? That there is a model of how things must be, or there's a model of what's ideal. And if you don't fall into that model, then you are imperfect and therefore not enough. Perfection is this idea that there is a complete picture of what something needs to look like, or what someone's life needs to look like. And wholeness for me it's like the fullness. It's there's a sense of completion, but it's like completion and ongoing, completion and ongoing. There's just this fullness, this emergence, and this ongoing emergence. This pouring over, the more, the more, the more. And in each moment, the sense of completion is still there. Like there is no lack. So with perfection, for me, there is this energy of lack, this energy of striving towards this goal, this image, striving towards these ideals. And in wholeness, it's like, all of me here, no, accepted and free and worthy. So there are these things that language can't quite capture. And I think even in that, it's again the strive for perfection. Perfection says, like, let's define this word and let's make it so accurate so that the other person gets it. And I'll use the same root word perfectly. And wholeness is like, this is the most full version I can find of this definition in this moment, right? I'm giving you the whole of what I have in this moment. And next week or tomorrow or in a few moments, I might have more and I'll give you the wholeness. of what I have in that moment as well. Like wholeness is the ongoing, unfolding ness of it all. It's it's the lack of perfection. And I am going back to the word complete because perfection says it's complete. And wholeness says, this is what's here now. This is the whole of it now. And in another moment, there will be more. And a synonym that's coming up for wholeness for me right now is authenticity. So instead of perfection, can we connect with authenticity? Can we connect with what is real and true in this moment? And so going back to the healing journey, there is this experience that I have had of thinking of the model, right? Thinking of what perfection looks like and looking at my experience with sometimes with frustration or this idea that I needed to keep working towards the model, keep working towards the ideal. And so maybe the model or the ideal looked like, healing taking X number of months, rising like the phoenix from that loss, and telling the story of redemption, telling the story of having overcome the trials. And in my day to day, not being impacted by the hurt or the loss anymore, not feeling those emotions anymore because I've overcome them. I'm over them. And I wonder if some of that might relate to your experience. I wonder if some of that might be what you're going through in this very moment. And the reason why I want to call that out is whenever we are comparing ourselves to what we think we need to be, or comparing our journeys to what we think it should be, then it's like we never win. We just never win because our experiences are unique. We're in these unique bodies, having gone through a life that no one else has gone through, even if you're raised in the same household with siblings, same parents, even if you're freaking twins. Your life story and your life experience is going to be different, regardless of having similar circumstances and similar elements around you. Because what's happening in your internal world, the internal processing, the internal connections that are being made, that's going to be unique for you. So there really is no model for your healing. There really is no model for who you need to be on the other side and how long that should take. In releasing the idea of what it should look like, then you're able to be present with what it is. Ooh. And in my system right now, I can feel a sense of relief. In removing the comparison or the thing to strive for, I can just be here with what is. And that feels like it's a version of love, it's a version of care, it's a version of self-compassion that I just want to sit in. It feels so loving and so caring towards myself. And so imagine that for yourself. Imagine that you didn't have to think of who you need to be after loss and all the work you need to do in order to be better again, or to be perfect, in order for the world and your family and your friends and your partner to say, yeah, we're back. This is the old you, or this is the you I've been waiting for. Like, whatever. Whatever. This is the you that you should be. Whatever. It's like, what's the me that's emerging in this moment? What's the you that's emerging and unfolding in this moment? And I wonder what you might learn when you sit at the feet of that person, the you who's emerging. I wonder what wisdom that person might offer you when you sit there where you are, versus thinking that you need to be somewhere else, or feeling guilt around not being somewhere else. And I really invite you to just feel that in your system for a moment. Just allow yourself to breathe with that for a moment. You might feel a settling in your chest, a settling in your gut, your abdomen area, a softening of the shoulders as you release or think of releasing any ideas of who you need to be, and just be here in this moment. Can this moment be the moment of wholeness that it is? Can you accept that in this moment you are indeed whole? And can you accept that you are indeed worthy? There is no model. You are the original. Your life is the original. Your story isn't like the story of any other. So can you be with that? Can you allow for that to be right, to be acceptable, to be good? Can you allow for you to be right, to be acceptable, to be good? Can you allow for the parts of you that you consider to be imperfect, not quite where you want them to be? Can you allow for those parts to simply be a part of the ongoing unfolding? Can you allow for them to be the expressions of nature and the expressions of energy that are never complete, that are infinitely emerging and transforming and changing shape, even when the shape isn't obvious, even when we don't know in the moment what's happening, what's unfolding? Can you allow for that creation to happen within you, around you, outside of you, without having to strive for a thing, a model, an ending? Feeling that in your system. And if there is resistance there or anything that's wanting to push back, giving space for that too, knowing that that too is a part of your experience in this moment. It's a part of the wholeness. Making room for that, making that right and that acceptable and that good because it's here for a reason. So, really feeling into your rightness, your worthiness, breathing into that and having that fill the spaces in your body that have felt empty, that have felt striving, lacking, thirsty, hungry. Having your breath fill your body and reminding you of your wholeness. Reminding you that in this moment, there is nothing or no one else that you need to be. It's okay to simply be with what is. Mm. Mm-hmm. Squeezing yourself in a hug if that feels right. Offering yourself some love in whatever way feels right in this moment. It might be placing your hand on your chest, on your abdomen, any area of your body that's calling your attention. Really listening and offering that connection through touch if that feels good. The other thing that's coming up that feels really important to name, as I talk about being with what is, sometimes where you are feels really, really hard. Sometimes it might feel unbearable. And so I just want to name that being with what is isn't always sustainable, or it isn't always tolerable. And so if that's the experience that you're going through, you know that you should not be going through that alone. Or having support as you go through that is going to offer a more easeful healing journey. And so I do want you to check in with where you are. Are you in a state where there is some sense of a balance through your day to day? Or are you in a state where it feels as though you're under the water and struggling sometimes to get above surface? So really tune into that and acknowledge where you are, and knowing that if it's a daily struggle to survive, to wake up, to keep going, then it means that it would be supportive for you to have someone, a community, people, tools that you're using to move through that journey. Okay, and those resources could be a therapist, could be a coach, traditional healers, it could be plant medicine, could be conversations with friends, journaling. So there's so many tools that we have available to us, but really just know that it's better to not go through that alone. Okay, so I started with talking about the lie of perfection and how accepting this lie, believing this lie that we're fed primarily through mass media, there is this story that we hold internally that we need to be that model that we're being shown. And yeah, there are no two people on this planet who are exactly alike. There are no two people on this planet who would have gone through exactly the same experiences, which means that there is no model for us. There is no perfect thing or perfect state or perfect person that we should be emulating, because our journeys are going to be different. And so releasing the lie of what's perfect or what should be perfect, or the lie of what you should be striving for, it creates this sense of freedom in your system, in your body, in your journey, so that you are able to become a student of your own life, become a student of your own healing. Because if you are tuning into yourself, to your needs, to what's emerging and what's going to be supportive for you, it means that you can keep listening to that and offering yourself that medicine. And let me be clear that I'm not saying that you should be going through your journey alone. I'm not saying that, you should be figuring it out on your own. What I'm saying is, often in the healing journey, we miss that one of the most potent medicines is connecting with our inner wisdom. And if we are constantly looking out into the world, looking out at this other person and what their journey is, or comparing ourselves to what we're seeing on social media or somewhere else, we're losing the insights that our own body and being wants to share with us. We're losing that medicine, the unique medicine, the customized medicine from your body and your journey. We're losing that. Okay? And I also want to name that it is helpful to learn from others. There are so many teachers and mentors that I have, so that as I'm having conversations with people, I'm referencing this mentor and this teacher and this friend and where I learned that and how that is now a part of my experience, right? However, what I'm not doing, or what I remind myself not to do, is to think that if I'm not where someone else is, if my story and if my life doesn't look like someone else's life, I don't tell myself that I'm failing, and I don't tell myself that I'm behind. I'm not lacking. I'm looking out into the world at teachers and people who inspire me, and sometimes the trees, sometimes the plants. I'm looking out into the world and finding, is that medicine that I want to incorporate? Does that story resonate with me? Am I inspired by that person's journey? What tool might I bring into my life and my journey? So I'm not trying to have my life be a copy of someone else's life. I am not feeling the lack or the hunger of being exactly who I perceive someone else to be. I'm picking up nuggets, lessons, practices, inspiration where they align with my own journey. I've shared this expression in different experiences of me teaching, and perhaps in podcast episodes, that you are the center of it all. You are the center. And so if you come back, root into your center, root into your wholeness, root into your worthiness, root into your agency, your sovereignty, like really feeling that, then looking out into the world, you're able to then accept, invite in what is in alignment with who you are becoming, who your soul is wanting you to become, versus this rush of, oh, I see this thing and that's what I need to be. No, we've been duped. We've been fooled. We've been fooled by these systems of oppression. We've been fooled. And I'm so grateful for the work of the teachers that I've had, to really shine light on the ways that we've been fooled and really reconnect with our sense of wholeness and worthiness and just the truth of who we are, the truth of our beauty, of our magic, and how our unique magic is such an important ingredient in the spaces that we're in, whether it's our families or spaces of work in our communities. Like our uniqueness is what's necessary, not being the same as the model. Fuck, there's no model. Sorry, now I need to mark this episode as E for explicit. There's no model. There is no model. There is you. You, beautiful, magical being. You with your expression. You with what people call messiness, and that is fucking magic. You with your desire. You, beautiful, magical being. There is you. And my desire for you is to keep unfolding, keep emerging, keep discovering who you are, because that is what's needed on this planet. You. You. You are what's needed. And if you find that there is something that is blocking the unfolding, blocking your connection to your sense of wholeness and worthiness, if you find that there's chatter in your mind, the programming that we have been fed for years and years, then get the support to release that shit. Whether it's through, authentic conversations with people who are living in their sense of wholeness, right? Whether it's getting a taste of that from having a conversation with them, or dancing is coming to mind for me because dancing really helps me to just move some stuff. Or whether it's, doing an inner healing program or working with a coach. Obviously, I'm a coach, so that's an option. Coach, healing guide, the person who will walk with you as you're moving through the shadows. That, like, I love this work. But whatever it is that resonates with you, find that, because your life, no, like that is the most precious thing. Your life, your existence on this planet, your magic, that is the greatest gift. That is the greatest gift. This feels like a good place to close for today. So grateful that we had this time together. So grateful. So grateful that as these ideas or these bits of wisdom are wanting to emerge, and I don't think that I am making these things up. I think that I'm listening to a force. I'm listening to some expression of the divine that's wanting to flow through. And so I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're listening and that you're able to receive it in any way that you're able to receive it. I feel as though in doing this work, in having this podcast, I get to fulfill a part of my own life purpose. And so gratitude to you for being in this with me. Yeah, and blessings to you for all the ways that something touched you, that something connected to your journey and where you are. And if you're feeling called to sharing this with someone else because it might also be a source of inspiration on their journey, then I encourage you to do so as well. All right, beloved, thank you for your time, for your presence, for your magic, for your wholeness, for you. And I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Bye for now.